I just want to say how honored I am to be here and appreciate all the work that you all are doing. And my presentation is going to be about parenting in a transgender world. And now it's my turn to see if I can get the clicker to work. So we know that the transgender movement is trying to infiltrate every aspect of society. This here is a form that's sponsored by the Center for Disease Control, and it's a form that schools in Chicago use to do a gender plan without telling parents what's happening. This is supported by the Center for Disease Control. This agenda is everywhere. As you can see, it's in the way the activists get to kids is they start out with indoctrination. They love bomb the children. They target the most vulnerable children, and they isolate them. We've heard how they seek to separate children from their parents. This is all an attempt to undermine the families. And oftentimes they will say, if your parents aren't affirming of who you are, I will become your mom. I'll become your parent. I'll take you in. You can come and live with me. I'll get you the transition interventions that you want. This is incredibly dangerous. This is one of the influencers, one of the transgender influencers, and he says, it's time to go on the offensive. I will not rest until every American child is trans. This is what they believe. They want to get every single child to reject their sex that they were born and become gender fluid or become identify as transgender. It's incredibly damaging. They tell parents, you have a choice. You can either accept that your child was born in the wrong body, or you can have a dead child. This person says calling a trans youth by their preferred name is suicide prevention. So they're using emotional manipulation on parents in order to coerce them into accepting this ideology. Because what parent, if they're told by their healthcare professionals that they can either go ahead and accept and affirm their child in this delusional belief or have their child commit suicide, what parent is going to want to have their child commit suicide? Of course they're going to go along with the healthcare professional that they believe is giving them accurate information. This is what we're fighting against. Michelle and Billy talked about how damaging this ideology is. This is a visual representation of what they are doing to girls as young as 12 years old. We have documentation of Kaiser Permanente in California cutting off the healthy breast tissue of a 12-year-old girl. I suspect it's probably happening to even younger girls. This is horrifying, and we should be fighting against it with everything we have. And what you can do, people are constantly asking me, what should I do? These are parents who are justifiably concerned about the transgender ideology. And the first thing we need to do is protect our family. And we need to do things to resist the transgender ideology. We need to build family identity so these kids have a very strong sense of what their real identity is. We need to talk about family history, build family traditions, have family holidays. Maybe come up with a holiday that's just you and your family. Do family journaling. Do family greetings. Come up with a creative idea so that every time your child walks in from school or walks in from the mall or wherever they've been, you do some kind of special family greeting with them, so they feel a part of that family. They have a sense of belonging. And daily rituals. These are all really important. Do values clarification. One of the things that Planned Parenthood does, and a lot of the comprehensive sexuality education programs do, is they go into schools and they do quote-unquote values clarification. And what this means is indoctrination. They will encourage a child to reject the values that they have and to take on these new values that are basically going to undermine the family and undermine their health and well-being. So you need to prepare your child and let them know this is going to happen if they're in the public schools. And even out there in society, they're actively trying to undermine the values of children. So introduce these values early. All people are born either male or female. Males are boys and men, female are girls and women. This might seem really basic, but these are messages you need to give to your children from the time they are toddlers on in order to resist this indoctrination. People are are male or female based on their biology and not feelings. Children are told that their feelings dictate reality now, and you need to prepare kids so that they don't have that misbelief. They need to know that not everybody knows these things, and some people will try to mislead them. And most of all, you need to teach your children that if anybody tells them to hide information from their parents, they need to come right to you, because they're telling kids not to talk to their parents. They're telling kids to hide this information from their parents. They're actively undermining your parental authority. You also need to work on skill building. Personal grounding skills are really important. Kids these days are bombarded with information, with social media, with TV. They're just constantly being overwhelmed. They need to know how to ground themselves. They need to know how to have positive self-talk. We know that, as Billy talked about, the messages that we have in our minds don't always come from ourselves. And we need to know how to resist those false belief systems, and we need to know how to counter that with positive self-talk. And we need critical thinking skills, so that when somebody says a person was assigned female at birth, what does that mean? No, they weren't assigned female. Female was recorded. It's a reality that was recorded. It's not something that's randomly assigned. These thinking skills are so important, because the ideology of the transgender activists is incredibly flimsy when you get into it. So kids need to know how to get in there and really question, this is a false dichotomy you're giving me. I don't need to have a choice between a dead daughter or a live son. That's false. Kids need to have those skills. And they need to develop an internal locus of control. One of the things that's incredibly damaging about this ideology is it's teaching kids that they don't have any control over their feelings. That if somebody hurts their feelings, their only appropriate response is to contemplate suicide. And children need to know, no, you have choices. You control your thoughts, feelings, and reactions to things. And parents need to parent. We live in a society right now that many parents believe that they're supposed to be friends with their children, not parent. And that's one of the problems, is we have parents who are afraid to establish boundaries. We especially need boundaries around phones, computers, and social media. It's okay to tell your child you absolutely cannot take your phone into your bedroom at night. It's okay to tell your child that the only time that they can be on the computer is when it's in a public space. It's okay to put parental controls on social media. These are things that we have to do, just as we lock up dangerous drugs or harmful toxins in our home. We put child-proof locks on the cabinets. We need to do this when it comes to things like social media, phones, and computers. And we also need to do a little housekeeping, and this is a hard one for lots of people. We all have issues within our families. One of the things that the transgender activists do is they find a weakness and they exploit it. And so if you have issues of depression, anger, addiction, marital strife in your home, it's important to, instead of pretending it's not there, to address it. We know that kids are resilient if we teach them to be resilient. And if we can model to them that we know that we have some issues that we need to take care of and to take care of them, that's going to be a really positive modeling for them. At this point, I don't recommend therapy if you have these issues. I recommend going to friends or pastors, or they call them life coaches. At this point, it's so hard to find therapists that haven't bought into this ideology, and that's really unfortunate. Fight back. We all have the opportunity, with just maybe 5 to 10 minutes a week, we can fight back on this. Here are lots of ideas. Submissions. We just had something with Title IX where our citizens had the opportunity to submit a comment to our government on how we felt about the Biden administration's absurd suggestions for how to change Title IX. You can do that as a citizen. You can write to your school board. Donate books. Buy some, Kimberly L's book is wonderful. Buy that book and donate it to your local library. Get together with other people and get a billboard. Contact companies and tell them you're not going to shop with them if they're going to embrace this ideology. I do not shop at Starbucks or Target, and I let them know I'm not shopping there and that I'd like to, but I won't until they stop indoctrinating children. Organize a protest at a gender clinic. Have conversations with faith leaders. There's a table out there that has some books on it. One of them is a curriculum for faith leaders on how to help children, how to teach their youth, how to resist this indoctrination. And so I encourage you to have these conversations with faith leaders, because so many of the faith leaders are afraid to take a stand on this, and so they're just going along with it. And if every church in our nation, every Christian church in our nation were to fight back against this, it wouldn't be an issue. It'd be gone tomorrow. Have letter writing campaigns to policymakers. Another thing I do is make up postcards or flyers and put them in grocery carts or in cars and parking lots, or go into a store like Target. Don't buy anything, but stick one of these flyers in all the pockets in the women's clothing section. One of the things I do is I go into libraries and I stick flyers into all the books in the LGBT sections. Go to school board meetings and speak your mind. And if you can, do what Pat did, infiltrate these groups, get into some of these pro-trans groups and record their meetings. Document what's going on there so that we can really show this is actually happening. We're just not making it up. The biggest thing that I hear over and over and over again is that I'm making this up. It's not actually happening. We are increasingly having documentation. It is happening. And the more documentation we have, the more we're going to be able to prove this is actually happening. I encourage you to go to transgenderissues.org, where there's a video of both Dr. Curtella and Billy and me. And these are some additional resources from Advocates Protecting Children. And I just want to end by saying, as I was, those of you who were at my speech 3 years ago know I was a former trans child. And I think about the teacher that I had when I was in first grade, who was bold enough to speak truth into me and say, you were not born in the wrong body. You are a beautiful girl. And instead of affirming my delusion that I was a boy, she got me help from the school psychologist, who also spoke truth into me. That's something we all can do. We all can have the honor of speaking truth into children and to save them. And this is what I got. Thanks to that teacher and that psychologist who spoke truth to me, I have a beautiful family of 3, and I am incredibly grateful for that. And the children these days who are put on Lupron and cross-sex hormones do not have the opportunity that I do. So it is our obligation and our honor to speak truth to them and to fight with every fiber of our being to save them. Thank you.